hope everyone's doing great. It's a wonderful spring day, finally, at last. It's a great time of the year because you can really see like all these green buds popping up on shrubbery and everything's just starting to come alive. Right now, back home in Brooklyn, I have a rooftop garden that is just starting to get planted and popping out of the soil. I have chickens that are now laying eggs, a lot of eggs on the rooftop garden. And just so you know, I grew up in this community. I grew up in Maplewood. I went to Columbia High School. And so basically, the point of that is I didn't know shit about farming. Sorry. I never went to farms, but nobody in my family had anything to do with that whole world. So let me tell you how I got to where I am now with this rooftop thing. So I, been a lifelong foodie, I guess, for, I think that word is a little controversial. How many people hate that word? Yeah, I know. It's like, is everybody here like food? Yeah. I've always loved food. We went to, you name it, Ethiopian restaurants, pizza all the time growing up. It's a really nice place to live if you're a foodie because you can try all these different, you can go to the city, you can try virtually anything. But living in the city for the first few years, I was, working in Midtown, 9 to 5, and the culture was just, everything was takeout or go out to eat and just grab and go, grab and eat on the train or something like that. And I started to wonder, more as I got more obsessed with food and got into food writing and kind of followed the herds of trying the next hot, trendy, cool restaurant and so forth, I realized, I really want to know more about this food from all points of view. Who's making it? Where did it come from? How does it grow? Where did it all start out? So that led me to really get excited about cooking, and I was cooking at home. And so in college, I should back up, I took a class in media theory, or media ethics, media criticism and theory. And my professor, Thomas Cooper, made our class go on a media fast. He said, you have to swear off all media for, I think it was 3 weeks. And you couldn't listen to any MP3s, you couldn't watch TV, you couldn't watch movies, you couldn't read newspapers actually. And you had to record this in the diary and see what happened. Kind of a bold undertaking, it was really weird. But he himself was influenced by Walden, which is Henry David Thoreau's book about going into the wilderness and living without any conveniences in modern life and trying to just basically bootstrap his way to survival on, edible leafy greens or something. I don't know how he did it, but he wrote a book about it called Walden. And he really made a lot of observations on society, which is odd because he was totally removing himself from society. So how did he learn so much about society when he took himself out of it? That was intriguing to my professor. So during the course of these 3 weeks of no media, we actually learned, we thought more deeply about media and its effects on people. Not that it's like, a bad thing, but just how it's an everyday, constant, thing that we encounter. Even if we're on the bus, we see, ads. If we're on the elevator, we see the TV and so forth. So that really inspired me to maybe try to cook at home and stave off of this whole restaurant blitz that I was, currently loving, and so was every New Yorker, it seemed. I have a lot of friends who actually never use their kitchens at home, don't even have one. And that's kind of like normal, and that's like accepted. And that's totally fine, but I think that in the end, my professor was asking us, like, what are we losing in exchange for these modern conveniences? Because eating out is a convenience. You're gaining time, I guess. And a lot of people aren't very confident in the kitchen, so they feel like they're getting a much better meal, too. But with practice, you can learn anything. You can learn how to feed yourself in a way that'll satisfy you in such a way that like no restaurant can after a time. So as I was not eating out, I did it at first for budget reasons. I wanted to save money, and I also just wanted to cook like crazy and learn all these fun recipes, I guess. But I had no idea that I would learn a lot more about where food comes from, and that's like the most important thing to me right now. Learning and teaching people about sustainable agriculture, how the food system works today, and how it could be working better is my focus now. Because when you look at something a little more closely, and I go to the grocery store about 3, 4, 5 times a week, and you're faced with choices like, do I buy organic milk or non-organic? And you're like, that is guilt conscious. You're like, oh, I should, but it's too expensive. But the way I rationalize it is the amount of money I'm saving by not going to a restaurant, I could easily afford to make the choices that I was thinking was probably a better idea for the earth, for my body, and so forth. So in that respect, it is a budget-conscious way to eat with a greater awareness, I guess, about where your food comes from. Be a little more choosy, if that's your thing. And it was my thing after a while, because being faced with these choices every day, you start to wonder, hey, what is in that milk, or what are these eggs? How are they raised? And now that I have chickens too, I know that it's a very organic thing, and it's a very beautiful process. And I hope that I share that with other people who come to my rooftop. But the other things I learned, which were totally unexpected, was the amount of waste that's produced when you get takeout. You don't think about it too much. You get like a taco or burrito takeout meal with like some chips on the side, and literally there's like a whole trash bag's worth of like containers and napkins and bags and spoons and cartons. So when I stopped eating out, an unprecedented thing happened, which is my garbage can wasn't full after like a whole week. I'm like, what's going on? I'm like not taking out my garbage. And then I started to realize, I was like, oh, yeah, all these like takeout things. And I'd go to the grocery store and there'd be like maybe produce thin bag here, a box of rice here, which you'd use several times before it was garbage. And that was really eerie to me. So I did a weigh-in. This was kind of an homage to another book by a writer named Elizabeth Roy. It's called Garbage Land, The Secret Life of Trash. Anyway, she dug into what happens when you throw things out, and it's a great study. I recommend it for anyone. But so she weighed the amount of trash that she produced in a week in her average household, and I weighed the amount of waste that I produced in an average week of not eating out, and compare that to the same types of foods. Like I'd make like a chicken and broccoli stir fry, and then I'd buy a chicken broccoli stir fry at a Chinese place, and there's like styrofoam, which by the way is still non-biodegradable. Why are we still using styrofoam? Anyway, and all this other stuff, and it's really a significant part of the waste stream. Actually, it's 30% of the waste stream is packaging. So packaging in all the types of forms. So it's something that you could give yourself a pat on the back if you cut down on it on a daily basis, and you buy things in bulk. You not only save more, but you save yourself the trips down to the trash can or the earth, a little bit of garbage. So that was one discovery, and during those 2 years, I wanted to kind of seek out other ways, other lifestyles that had to do with not eating out. And I wasn't really sure what those were at first, but I caught wind of this foraging dude who went by the name of Wild Man Steve. And that was really fascinating. So he leads tours. He's been doing this since like 1975 in New York City. He leads tours of public parks like Central Park, Prospect Park, etc., where he shows people, and this is like for like a $5 donation, you just show up. And he shows you all these edible leafy greens, plants, root vegetables that you can just find anywhere really. And actually, early spring is the perfect time to find all these things because they're nice and young and delicate. So the first time we walked about 5 paces into the park, and we come upon a patch of really nice, young, fresh-looking, I guess, weeds that I wouldn't have normally looked at as anything else but weeds. And he carefully, dissected 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different salad greens So nowadays, salad greens are the most expensive thing. They perish very quickly. They're expensive, but they're really good for you. A lot of the greens that you find in the wild have a lot of bitterness, which is, not seen as such a good thing culinarily, but actually nowadays it's kind of in vogue to have, arugula is a little bitter, people like that, broccoli raw, so forth. These are very rich in antioxidants and detoxins, so it's actually very good for a city dweller to be cleansing, with all this toxic air. And so you can just pile up on a lot of these edible weeds. The other plus is that they're often invasive plants, so they proliferate like crazy. They beat out grass for their space. They're weeds. So when you pick them, you're not quite killing anything. Actually, when you mess with a lot of weeds like dandelions, they pop all over the place. So when you fuss with weeds, they tend to proliferate anyway. So you're actually making them grow back even more the next year. So that's a good thing, I think, if you're not a lawn person. So that was really interesting. I learned how to make all sorts of salads. Now I pick out dandelion greens, which are one of my favorite salad greens these days. And you actually will find them in a lot of really haute cuisine restaurants as a salad green. Dandelion greens. Yes, it's the same exact thing. It grows in the cracks of the sidewalks. You can find it outside. And I wouldn't have recognized these things because they all kind of look the same when you're not aware of what you're looking at. But now they look like dandelion greens to me. So I make pestos with them. It's a really good way to crush up a lot of leafy greens and get a lot of greens in your system, but in a delicious way. And you can always freeze it and keep it in your freezer and put it on your pasta or whatever later. And what else? Oh yes. Then I wanted to explore other things that might be free, maybe not necessarily wild, but kind of just available. And I came in contact with a group called freeganism. The word is a play on free and vegan, and they're kind of like anarchist, kind of rebel folks who like to basically reuse salvage goods that are thrown out. So this could be, something like grabbing a cardboard box on the sidewalk to use it. Or it could be going through the dumpster of the Pathmark or something and finding things like unopened packages of cookies, perfectly good bananas, maybe a little brown, and just finding a lot of reusable things. And they happen to be, for the most part, vegetarian, so if there's like a meat issue, it's not their concern, like safety issues. So they actually live off a lot of these found goods, and it's actually part of every day. They found lots of interesting things like really good cheeses. I know that sounds like kind of gross. A lot of people were really grossed out when I was talking about this and when I was going on their tours. But somehow that didn't bother me too much, and I went on and kind of saw it hands-on and found that, this is really actually quite thrifty and quite, they're saying a lot about how much we throw out. In this country, America throws out more things than the rest of the world, period. But food happens to be one of them, and so often grocery stores, restaurants, they overproduce just for looks. Nobody wants to go to a bakery at 9 p.m. that has like one roll after one croissant, which would be efficient, but that's just not the mentality that we have in this country. It's always like if you go to the Dunkin' Donuts down there, they're gonna have a lot of donuts at the end of the day. I actually encourage everyone to go to Dunkin' Donuts on South Orange Avenue at 11 p.m. and ask the guy who's working there if he can have all the donuts, if you want donuts. I actually did that when I was in high school. So all these things kind of came together in this this kind of happy storm. I also started more cooking collaboratives. I started a lot of friendly competitions in food. I started all these, you name it, chili cook-offs, something, soup cook-offs for some certain charity organization. And it was actually just done at first as a way to get together with people and actually be social while cooking. Because the first thing everyone asks me is, how are you going to have a social life if you're not going to restaurants? I'm like, oh, yeah, I better figure that out. I did go to bars, so that part was covered. I didn't not drink out in here. But still, I felt like there are opportunities to convene and be social around food, and there are opportunities to have a career in food that is not a business. A lot of people say, when are you going to open a restaurant? That's, it doesn't have to be that way. So, it was seen as a little strange to everybody in New York, especially the press and even my peers. But gradually, I think that when you have a true passion for something, and even if you do something that is completely unconventional, you go into Walden Pond, like Thoreau, or you I don't know, put yourself in a bubble or something. And you do it with such a genuine enthusiasm and passion. You just shout from the mountains what you're doing and what you're learning about doing it. It has an infectious quality. It has a natural curiosity. I encourage everyone to do something a little differently. Just open your minds and see what conventions might be rethought. And nowadays, well, thank you so much to these TEDx conference people. I do get asked to talk about this, and a lot of people have shown an interest. New York Times has interviewed me for a couple of articles about food trends, and now, like, everybody's talking about this wave in DIY home cooking, and it's really exciting. So I think that as long as you really do it with like a true care and passion, you're not just shouting from rooftop to the point of shouting, then it is infectious, it is inspiring, hopefully, and it is something that will catch a lot of people's attention, especially if it's pretty weird, like not eating out here. So that's about all I have to say. Thanks again.